The first trailer for the 14th Doctor's final story, The Giggle, is here, which, yeah, is really weird because he only sort of properly appeared for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and yet already his era is nearly over, if you can call it an era, more like a sort of mini-series, really, but yeah, 3 episodes, we had the first one, the second one, the middle installments, and now we are at the end, the third part of this sort of loose trilogy with David Tennant and Catherine Tate back as the Doctor and Donna. So in this video I thought I'd do a bit of a breakdown of that trailer we got because there were 1 or 2 particularly interesting shots in it to talk about and speculate about, and more broadly as well I'll just be talking about the circumstances surrounding this transition from the 14th Doctor into the 15th Doctor, obviously without going into the leaks or anything like that, but just sort of speculating about how the Regeneration scene might play out and what might kill this incarnation of the Doctor. So the trailer begins with a shot of a unit helicopter, presumably travelling towards unit headquarters to the unit helipad. I believe that is London Bridge Station there, the train tracks there that are sort of below the helicopter, this aerial view of London. So that would make sense because the unit headquarters is sort of opposite that sort of side, on the other side of the River Thames, sort of in the financial district of London. So yes, that sort of all makes sense. We've got these 2 helicopters like we've seen in the trailers, transporting the Doctor and then the TARDIS as well. So I'm guessing that maybe unit pick up the Doctor and the TARDIS quite early on from Camden. I think the Bristol location filming as well will sort of tie into that. I think I kind of pretend that is also Camden Market or sort of the general London area. They'll go from Camden to Bristol, it'll be kind of treated as the same thing, and then you'll come onto the scene and pick the Doctor up. Then, of course, we have more Toymaker stuff, so a fantastic shot there of Neil Patrick Harris as this new incarnation of the character, saying, "Doctor, we meet again." We have a shot of the Doctor and Donna arriving at the end of a corridor from another room, presumably the Mr. Emporium toy shop. I think regardless this is meant to be part of the toy room, part of the Toymaker's realm. Very, very exciting stuff. We have a very intriguing sequence containing the Doctor and the Toymaker, where the Doctor is literally being kind of pulled like a puppet on strings. So we had seen some shots from the sequence before in the other trailers, I believe, including the second shot, which is like the Toymaker kind of pulling the strings. But yeah, that is a kind of interesting visual. I mean, fantastic visual, obviously, of the Toymaker literally kind of pulling the strings and kind of controlling the Doctor, presumably, or hampering the Doctor, kind of hampering his movements and his involvements in what's going on around him. Really, really interesting stuff. I can't wait to see how that all plays out. We have another sort of similar shot where the Toymaker is kind of holding some puppet strings, but he actually cuts the strings, cuts the wires, so presumably what's on the other end kind of ends up falling. Is this some kind of sort of Voodoo Doll like type thing where the Toymaker is controlling the Doctor or some other character and he cuts the strings and then that leaves that person in a compromised position or situation? Is he literally kind of killing someone off here by cutting the strings? And across all of this, we have this voiceover, this narration from Neil Patrick Harris from the Toymaker, the Time Lord and the Toymaker, one final game. Really high stakes here. Obviously this is a Regeneration story, which we'll get onto in just a moment, but yeah, one final battle, a reunion between these 2 characters who haven't met on screen for almost 60 years. Are there going to be further reveals in this about the Toymaker not only pulling the Doctor's strings in this story, but also more broadly? Did he have a hand in the Regeneration in terms of the Doctor getting his old face back, in terms of the Doctor's clothes also changing and regenerating along with him as well? Is this all going to be revealed? I'd be very surprised if they didn't go into that, because the Toymaker was originally going to be what killed the first Doctor off for the very first ever transition, the very first ever Regeneration back in 1966. So I fully expect there to be some sort of involvement there, some sort of reveal. It would be very, very fitting, after all these years, for this 60th anniversary special of this story, to have the Toymaker finally, making a Doctor regenerate and having him involved in, one or multiple regenerations. Is the thing with the salt from Wild Blue Yonder going to come into this as well? I've seen people say that the whole thing with that salt, with the line of salt, using that to invoke superstitions at the edge of the universe, obviously something the Doctor kind of acknowledges and mentions at the end of that story as well. That could have a broader significance. It could be sort of what allows the Toymaker to enter our universe, to enter this world. Something funny going on there where the walls between universes or whatever break down and it inadvertently sort of lets him in. Then the trailer ends with the most intriguing two shots of all. So firstly, this one of David here, of the 14th Doctor. This appears to be from the actual Regeneration scene. It could be a sort of fake out thing like we've had in the past with the past couple of Doctors, like with Peter Capaldi in Lie of the Land. That shot was included in the trailer, a shot of him regenerating from that scene, and obviously that wasn't actually the final scene of him regenerating. That ended up being something different. So the similar thing with the 13th Doctor, with Jodie in The Power of the Doctor. All the trailers for that episode ended with that shot of her with the regeneration energy kind of around her face and her hands and stuff, screaming, "Yaz!" And that ended up being from earlier in the episode. It was a regeneration scene, a regeneration shot, but it was from the fourth regeneration scene involving the Master, so it wasn't the actual transition, the actual sort of changeover scene from the end of the story. That was still preserved. So, I'm not sure with this. Is this the scene itself or something different? I think I'm sort of leaning towards it being the scene itself. I think there are a number of things that kind of tie into that. Number one, the background here, which matches the supposedly fake background behind Ncuti in those early trailers. What the hell is going on here? It's the same cloudy background, which, like I say, supposedly is there to hide something else. Supposedly it's like a placeholder to preserve some element of surprise. So that ties into it, and it would make sense for those two shots to be from the same scene. Note also how the Doctor here isn't wearing his coat. He's wearing his white shirt, he's still wearing his waistcoat, and his tie is just visible in the bottom of screen. But yes, that would sort of match slightly as well with the Ncuti thing, because in that shot of Ncuti, the 15th Doctor, he's not wearing the waistcoat, he's not really wearing the tie, but it is looped around his neck, and he's wearing the shirt, it's kind of unbuttoned and stuff. So again, it makes sense chronologically for these two shots to come one after the other. For the David one to come first, the Ncuti one to come afterwards, once he's kind of removed more of his clothes, he's kind of shedding this skin of this old incarnation. In terms of how this regeneration might come about and where this mystery location might be, I think the most convincing theory I've seen, based on what we know, is that this is the unit's helipad. And the reason it's been doctored and replaced is either because the unit helipad is something they wanted to keep a secret until closer to transmission. We didn't see it obviously until that most recent trailer. Maybe it was that. Maybe it's because there are certain characters visible in the background. The scenes that we've seen from the helipad in that trailer had like Kate there in the background, had Ruth Maddie's character, Shirley Bingham there as well. Donna, I think, was there. Mel was speculated to be there as well. I'm not sure we actually saw her in the flesh, but she's certainly believed to be present in that scene, certainly believed to be present in the episode as well because of that infamous Disney shot in the Disney trailer. So that would make sense as well. Perhaps those characters are all there literally in the flesh. Perhaps it's like visions of them who've come to see this Doctor off as he regenerates, sort of like the Fifth Doctor in the Caves of Androzani, where he has his visions of his friends and companions kind of wishing him well as he moves and then transitions into this next Doctor. Speaking of which, here we go, our first proper shot of the 15th Doctor, in the TARDIS, in situ, once again in that outfit we've seen him wearing before in that very first shot. What the hell is going on here? The white shirt unbuttoned, the tie looped around his neck, clearly parts of the 14th Doctor's costume that, like I say, presumably he is just removing and shedding off, shed off skin, I guess, that sort of idea. In the TARDIS, with the jukebox behind him, which I think was sort of part of the original TARDIS leak for this set. It was believed there was going to be a jukebox present in the TARDIS now. Not exactly sure on the whys and what's and hows of that, why it wasn't there before, why it's suddenly there for Ncuti for the 15th Doctor. Perhaps he just immediately decides that that's what his TARDIS needs to kind of make a clean break, a fresh start, and get into the mood of this new incarnation. It will be really interesting to see how all of this plays out, because I think if the 14th Doctor does regenerate on the helipad, that kind of suggests to me or implies to me that it's like a kind of mid-adventure thing. It's not like the end of the adventure. It's sort of during the adventure, during the episode, before the fight is properly won. So is the 15th Doctor going to sort of have some moments, some hero moments, where he ends up having to save the day and pick up the pieces, where the 14th left off? And how will he get back to the TARDIS? How much runtime will Ncuti get? I think in one article or one rumour, there was something about him having like 20 minutes of runtime in the 60th specials. We now know that he hasn't been in the first one or the second one, so his involvement will be limited purely and completely to the Giggle. So, you know, how much of Shooty will we end up seeing? I think personally, it wouldn't surprise me if he shows up sort of sooner rather than later, maybe not in the first half, but sort of after the sort of half-hour mark. I think there was one interview where Russell was kind of saying that, you know, you get to the halfway point and you think, my god, how has so much happened already and we're only halfway through? So maybe that will be the moment where the regeneration kind of takes place, not at the end of the story, but in the middle. And then we're literally left going, you know, what the hell is going on here? How is this possibly going to get resolved? That is my breakdown of this trailer, you know, my best guesses and predictions about what these shots mean and what they mean in the context of the story as well, and how these things are going to play out. But what are your thoughts surrounding this episode, the Giggle, this swan song installment for David Tennant and for the 14th Doctor, his regeneration story as well? How do you think the actual regeneration scene is going to play out? You know, what do you think his final words are going to be? And how do you think he's going to transition into the Shooty Doctor? And will it be straightforward? Will it be something different? Whatever your thoughts and theories, let me know down in the comments below. If you have enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new for more stuff like this in the future. But otherwise, until the next one, thank you so much for watching and goodbye for now.